You've got your hands on some Alchemy decking? Great choice. Now it's time for the exciting part, installing your brand new deck. But before you can relax, stick the barbecue on, and maybe catch some sun, there are some simple steps you'll need to follow. It's true what they say though, preparation really is key. So, let's make sure you've got all the tools ready. You'll be needing our Alchemy starter clips and hidden fixing clips, which include driver bits, as well as the usual suspects. An electronic circular saw with a fine tooth blade, a tape measure, a screwdriver, a power drill, a pencil, safety goggles and gloves, and, every builder's best friend, a spirit level. You might also want to grab some of our colour-coded screws and skirt trims or edge boards to finish your deck, if you haven't already. Now you can turn your attention to the substructure, which is very important in helping to ensure that your deck will be around for years to come. The first step is to mark out where your deck will be and clear the area of any vegetation. You can then dig the area to the required depth, making sure that it's level. Next, you'll have to cover the area with a breathable membrane. This will prevent the growth of vegetation, which can be damaging to your decking. Then, simply fill the space with gravel, checking that it's still level. Now, you're ready to install the timber frame. We would recommend using treated C16 easy edge joists, with the dimensions of at least 47mm by 100mm or 47mm by 150mm. The joists should be spaced at 400mm for Habitat Plus and Urban in residential applications, but at 300mm if using urban decking in a commercial setting. For decks over 600mm high, please seek professional advice. We also recommend that your decking has a gradual gradient of at least 2 degrees and is angled away from any buildings, so water will naturally run downwards and off the decking. This will come in particularly handy with our great British weather. Before we get going, you'll need to condition your deck boards by removing them from the packaging and laying them flat side by side for 24 hours before fitting. Make sure to give them a trim at both ends to ensure that they're all the same length. If it's below freezing, you'll need to wait for a warmer day, as we don't recommend fitting Alchemy unless it's above 0. Screw your starter clips into position along each joist and slot your first deck board into the starter clips. Make sure not to screw or nail through your composite deck boards, unless you're starting with an urban edge board. You should also leave a 10mm expansion gap between the deck and any walls or other fixed objects, and a 25mm ventilation gap between any skirt trims and the ground. Next, place a hidden fixing clip into the groove of this first board. Screw it into place, but don't tighten this just yet. Use a low-speed, high-torque setting if you're using an electric drill. You should use one clip on every joist and make sure that the deck boards don't overhang the joist by more than 25mm. Now, grab yourself another board and push it into the fixing clips. Then attach fixing clips into the groove of this second board at each joist center. It's at this point that you can go back to the first fixing clips to tighten them a little bit more if you need to. It should only be a little bit though, as it's important to not over-tighten anything. Continue this process, using one clip and one screw on every joist. If board ends ever meet, there needs to be a joist and a fixing clip for each board, rather than them sharing one. As composite decking naturally expands and contracts, you should also allow for an expansion gap of about 5mm, depending on the temperature at the time of fitting. Just take a look at this handy table for the full details. When you come to the last 2 boards, you'll have to fit the final one first. Use the boards and a pencil to mark where the final starter clips, which in this case will be used as finishing clips, will sit. Then, just fit these clips at each joist center. You can then slide in the second to last board and the final hidden fixing clips, before securing them into place. You're now on the home stretch, and we can practically hear the sausages starting to sizzle. If you're fitting our urban product, you can use an urban edge board, which has one smooth edge for a neat finish. Simply use the edge board as a final deck board, but instead of using starter clips, you'll be using our colour-coded screws. Drill 2 pilot holes into the edge board at each joist centre, ensuring these pilot holes are at least 25 mm from the edge of the board. Then use the colour-coded screws. It's worth mentioning that you can even lay an urban deck by starting with the edge boards and working inwards. Or you could use the edge boards along the side of your deck rather than on the top. Just leave an appropriate overhang to ensure the top of your deck blends in seamlessly with the side of it. Then there's the Alchemy skirt trim, which is the perfect product to finish off both Habitat Plus and urban decks. But unlike the edge board, our skirt trim can only be fitted along the side of your deck. Pilot drill 2 holes at every joist centre, ensuring these pilot holes are at least 50 mm from the edge of the board, and then use our colour-coded screws. There's just one more thing. When adding these finishing touches to your deck, remember to leave 25 mm between the skirt trim and the ground to allow for airflow. You'll also want to make sure that any trims are fitted in line with the boards across the top of the deck, as we don't want anyone tripping over and dropping those sausages. Now, we know you're dying to get the deck chairs out, but remember, any furniture placed on Alchemy decking should ideally be fitted with rubber or felt feet to prevent any unnecessary damage. And that's it, you're done. So, put your feet up, get the fizz out, and say cheers to years of low maintenance, hassle-free, and high enjoyment British decking. If you want to know how to best look after your brand new Made in Britain deck, or if you've got any more questions, just head to bswcomposites.co.uk. We're always happy to help.